Hey everybody, this is Seth Keeping It Real. Hope you guys are doing really well. I see we have quite a few people here already. Today is a really cool opportunity because I have the privilege to interview Jeff Cohen. And am I pronouncing your last name correctly, Jeff, when I say that?
Yeah, sure. Cohen, Cohen, The
Okay,
best
all of
was
the
the
above.
best was my brother's a teacher, and so a kid spelled it Kowin, and he goes, "Well, phonetically it's still right."
Because it still sounds the same way. That's
Right.
hilarious. Well, you should be very thankful for your last name. My last name is a lot harder for people to know how to pronounce. So what I did is when I used to work at Apple, someone one day said, he's this local musician here in Austin. He said, there goes Seth, Keeping It Real. And my last name's Kniep. And it's an old German word. It means knife maker. And so I thought, man, that's kind of cool. And so like a year or two later, I thought, I should market that. And so I started
Yeah.
calling it Keeping It Real. Now people know how to pronounce my name. But if they haven't heard my videos or haven't met me in this side, Knipe, crazy words. Jeff, thank you so much for being here today. Doing today is we are talking about automation, and automation is super relevant. Even if you're not selling on Amazon, if you're selling on eBay, if you're using Shopify, if you're using WordPress, if you work for a company, even not owning your own business, this is relevant to you. But especially for every business owner out there, and those of you guys who are looking to own a business, when you automate, you save one of your most precious assets, and this asset you can never get a refund on, and it is your time. And one of the biggest newbie mistakes of a new business owner or a new Amazon seller is undervaluing the asset of time. You can't get it back. Get married, have a few kids, go through a few decades of life, and all of a sudden you go, oh my goodness, time is precious. And I value it more every day the older I get. Not because I fear getting old, but because I want to use it well, because I have this opportunity to leverage it and make the most of it. So automation is huge. And as you guys know, it's one of the most challenging parts of growing a business. So that's why I asked Jeff to come in and talk about this, because he works with and for a company that does this specifically for Amazon sellers. Now, you guys are going to get a ton of content out of this, which I'm super excited about. I'm raising the bar on there, Jeff, right now. I'm raising
it. That's okay. I like that.
No, I know you're good with it. So if you guys you probably know Jeff more through Feedback Genius. Is that your guys' most popular tool right now as far as how many people use it? Would it be Feedback Genius, Jeff? Is that how most people you think know about you?
Yeah, I mean, just for the fact that Feedback Genius has been around since 2013, which doesn't seem like that long, but in the grand scheme of Amazon, that's like 30 years, right?
Yeah, that's an eternity in technology, especially Amazon.
Yeah. So the fact that that product's been around for so long, that's probably the product most people in 2014, towards the end of 2014, we really started trying to push Seller Labs as a business. The corporate business, we started pushing that as opposed to the individual products. And I think,
right,
now we're finally getting to the point. But a lot of times I talk to people and they're like, oh, Seller Labs. Yeah, Seller Labs. Oh, Seller Labs. Wait, what do you do? Oh, Feedback Genius.
right.
Yeah,
And then it
I know
connects.
that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I got to know you, first through Feedback Genius, then I found Seller Labs. So whatever you guys did, you did a really good job of marketing Feedback Genius because it works. Like it really, really does. And people know you guys through that. So this, just so everyone knows, this is not, what I'm about to say is not flattery. All about keeping it real. What I'm saying is truth. Before I knew Jeff, before I met him, Jeff and I have not known each other that long. We're not like high school buddies from a long time ago. This is going to be a super objective interview, which is awesome. But of all the feedback tools out there, Feedback Genius was by far my favorite for automating customer messaging, following up customer reviews, seller feedback, all that stuff. Feedback Genius was my favorite. There's Cash Cow Pro, there's other ones, and there are good programs out there. But it is really cool now to be able to actually talk to the chief marketing officer of that company. So Jeff, can you give us a brief 5-minute story of how you ended up to where you are today, what your background is a little bit, whatever you want to share, and then we're going to jump right in talking about automation.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get it. I mean, my background goes a lot deeper than my history with Seller Labs. Real short, I started in the internet e-commerce space in 2007. I started a website called textbooks.com. I left textbooks.com after growing it to a multi-million-dollar e-commerce business and started running an affiliate business called Campus Books. when I was at Campus Books, my first hire was a guy named Brandon Checketts. Brandon ended up leaving to go run another book company called Book Scouter that he had created. And then Brandon and I remained friends. I guess the power of friendship and networking. Brandon called me up one day and he said, hey, they're doing these auctions in Atlanta. It's all the stuff that falls off a truck, right? You should come check this out. It's really cool. We're buying this stuff at auction and we're selling it online. So I jumped at the chance. I flew down here. I started checking out the auctions, and it's really cool. You walk into this like gigantic warehouse, and there's like Gaylords. If you don't know what a Gaylord is, it's a 4x4x4, 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot box, and the box is full, and all you can see is like the top of the box, and from that you have to estimate how much the value of that box is, and then from that you bid in auction, and we started bidding in all these boxes on auction, and we built from a storage locker to a 4,000 square foot warehouse to a 15,000 square foot warehouse. We were doing about probably 3.5 to 5 million a year in sales on Amazon, mostly books and some sporting goods. And we had a problem, right? And our problem was that whenever we would identify a book and we would tell people it had a torn cover, or we had CDs, but the CDs didn't come in. For people that don't know, that's how we used to listen to music, right?
Little round discs.
Right, little silver round discs.
They turn.
Come in a plastic case because you couldn't scratch them, right? And but ours didn't have the case,
right.
So we were getting a lot of negative reviews because we were it's not the original media. Right. So we created Feedback Genius to solve our own problem, right? Our problem was that we wanted to improve our seller feedback so we could win the buy box and get better placement for that. We went on to
really quick, Jeff. I'm going to jump in just really quick. This is super cool because this is such a key point. So many people are out there talking about, how do I start a business? How do I start a business? What kind of product do I create? You guys found a problem you were running into. You found a solution. And now here we are talking today, and look at all the history since then. I mean, think about that. You ran into a problem. You created a solution for the problem. That became a business.
All right. You want to keep it real?
What's that?
You want to keep it real?
Absolutely. Let's do it, brother.
All right. So Seller Labs has created quite a few products in our time. The ones that you're aware of and the ones that are successful are products that we've created to solve a problem that we have had or that a customer has brought to us.
Right.
When we've tried to just create a solution to an abstract problem, those solutions have failed. And we've done that. Listen, like, we've all failed in business, and it's not about what you learn from success. It's what you learn from failure. Right. And so what we've learned is that if we can really hone in on what the problem is that we're trying to solve, we can then tell you whether our software can do it. And when we do that with our software, and we can work even one-on-one or maybe one on a few with our customers, the features, the benefits, the power of our software exponentially grows. When we sit in a vacuum and we try to create, the value of our software fails.
Because you had this great idea, super cool idea, but where's the need?
Right.
How do you validate? Yeah.
Right. And so when you say, you've had interactions with Seller Labs, Feedback Genius for a really long period of time, a lot of that comes from the culture that we set up as a company. And so we really set our company up on 3 pillars. And so I'm not trying to do this as a commercial for Seller Labs. I'm trying to do this so people can understand, like, when you go into Panera Bread, right? They have a huge mission statement on the wall that tells you all about how their farm to table service works and how what you're getting is quality products. When you walk, if you do business with Zappos, I was just at the Zappos headquarters last week. Everywhere you go, they're talking about customer service. They're talking about how they're helping the community. The culture of that business starts at the top, works its way down, starts at the bottom, works its way up. And so we saw those as practices as a business that we wanted to build. And so it wasn't for us just about building good software. It was about building community, right? Doing things like this where we can help train people. It was about providing excellent customer service so that if you have a problem, you get a real person, you get a real solution and a timely response. And it was about creating education so that we can teach you how to use our tools, not just have our tools be out there and kind of what I call a hope strategy, hope that someone can use them correctly.
Hey, Jeff, for some reason, and I don't know what, it may not be in your end, I have about 20 comments saying your volume's really low.
Okay.
So let me check
Let's
something.
pull my mic closer and see if that works.
Yeah, everyone chat right now. Tell me if you can hear him now. Go ahead and say something, man.
Okay, so is that better if I move my mic a little bit closer?
Same level,
start
Doug?
Singing. I can even get closer to the mic if you want. Let me turn my gain up. Hold on.
You sound like a talk show host.
Okay. I traveled with my...
That's louder for sure.
Okay. Oh, I'm redlined. Hold on.
No, I think that might work.
No, I was redlined. I don't want to be redlined.
A little bit.
I traveled with my system last week, and some of the knobs might have gotten screwed up. Is that better for everybody?
Yeah, everyone says much better. Okay, you're good now. Now you sound like that voice that does trailers for movies. So you're good.
All right. Coming soon to a theater near you.
Exactly. You got to get a little more bass to it, though.
My backup career.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. So I want to park in this just for a minute because there's so many people here. In fact, the very first question that came into the chat room was, Seth, I have a product. It's sitting in Amazon for 2 months. There are no sales, and my price is better than all my competitors. And my first question always is going to be, are you solving a need? Are you actually solving it? Is your product just a product, or is it actually solving a problem? So guys, this concept isn't just unique to software tools for selling on Amazon. It also applies to you selling on Amazon. If you're fixing a real need, there's a problem, and your solution is the product. What people are really buying is not the product. They're buying the solution. And if you do that better than anyone else and your prices are competitive, you're going to make money if you do it right. And it's a long road, and it's a difficult path, and it is not easy. And we won't try to make it all flowery and cute for you to make sure you're like, oh, it's so easy. And a lot of people say that. The other day, Jeff, someone sent out this email, and he said, here's how you succeed in Amazon.
Right.
Find a great product. Make sure your prices are good.
Yep.
Find a supplier, and it's super easy. And I said,
it, man, that's it. It's that easy.
Yeah.
And the other 900 things he forgot to tell you.
Exactly. It's unbelievable. And they're just, peddling this idea, but no, it's not. You're building a business, and building a business is not easy. So let's take a moment, you guys, to talk about that.
So let me dig into, can I dig into your customer? Can I dig into your person's problem? So I would even take that a step further. Cause I've had people come to me and say the same thing, right? I had a guy call me. He was actually at a trade show. He came up to me and he said, I have a better product than my competitors. It's cheaper than my competitors. And I can't get any sales velocity going. Right. And so here's how I approach that problem, right? This isn't automation, but it's really good. I can answer that question in a very meaningful way. So let's go there anyway.
And this is still, and real quick, this is good, Jeff, because that's exactly what I want to go into. Is there are some tasks that are one-time tasks, and there's some tasks that are menial. You have to keep repeating. This is where you do automation so that you have time to do this one-time task. Right. And not you'll never do it again, but it's a big one. It's something you have to put your brain and thought into. Sending a customer message, very automated. This over here, you need more time, people, to build your business. If you're spending all your time just responding to emails, you don't have time to do what Jeff is about to say. So go ahead.
Right. So just for my business, right? Because I'm a seller as well. For my business, I have Feedback Genius set up to automate for getting reviews and getting seller feedback, right? That's totally automated. We can go into that. I outsource because I don't want to spend my time. So I outsource, and I have a young lady who manages my Amazon account. She clicks that little button that says no reply necessary. She messages people back when messages need to occur. I don't have to log into my system on a daily basis to deal with that stuff because from a time value of money perspective, that's not worth my time. So one, I have automated through software. The other, I've automated through outsourcing. But to your customer's problem, customers say this to me all the time. And what I always say to them is, do you know, so you brought up a good point. Does your product have any utility? The second is what type of problem do you actually have? And it's very easy to say, I've got my product listed. It's not generating any sales, but what type of problem do you have? So what I tell people is there's a business report. The business report is located in the business report section, and it's called the Detail, Sales, and Traffic by Child Item Report. Okay. So detail page, sales and traffic by child item report. You download this report. When you download this report, it's going to give you all the fundamental information that you need. It's going to give you your sessions percentage, and your buy box and your sales.
Right.
From this, you're going to be able to identify whether you have a traffic problem or you have a conversion problem. And if you have a traffic problem, that means that you have like 50 or 100 sessions in the last 30 or 60 days.
No one's finding it.
No one's even finding it. If you have a conversion problem, you have maybe, let's say you have 1,000 sessions and you have 10 sales. Now you have a conversion problem, not a traffic problem. So you can't actually solve the problem until you know what problem you're trying to solve. And then each of those problems have different solutions, whether you need to run ads to drive traffic or whether you need to optimize your listing to get better discovery. And where sellers mess up all the time is that they want to skip that step. So this particular seller came to me and he said, I've got a great product. My page is fully optimized and I can't generate any sales. In fact, the only sales I've generated have been from friends and family. And I said, okay, first off, be careful if you're going to do friends and family, because you can violate terms of service by doing that. And I looked at his business reports. He had 1,500 sessions. He had 37 sales, which means he had his 35 that he knew he drove through friends and family and only 2 organic.
Right.
He clearly has a conversion problem.
Right. People are finding it, but when they see it, they don't want to buy it.
Right. So he needs to make the offer more compelling. He needs to make his photos weren't great. His listing wasn't really selling based on feature benefits. And so, he's sitting here telling me I need to drive more traffic to my product. And I'm saying, if you can increase you're at 3.5, let's just say he's at under 3% conversion, right? 1,500 to 35 sales. If he can improve that to 5% conversion, he's going to like 2x his sales. If he can complete that to 10%, it's 4xing his sales. So the traffic is there, the discovery is there, but the conversion is not. And so I would caution that that particular early question to say, what problem do you really have? So if you're actually trying to solve the right solution, you're trying to implement the right solution.
Yep, it's really, really good. In other words, it's optimizing what you have. So you got the discoverability, and then you have the buyability. Can I find it? Okay, I can find it. Now, do I want to buy it? And that's the cool thing too, you guys. Some of you, I know you're going after some products that have massive competition. So when the competitors' photos are really good, when their listings are optimized really well, you now have to bring your bar way up here to compete at that level if you know it's being discovered. The nice thing, and these are my favorite products, is when you find a product that's so niche down that there's a smaller, maybe just a few million people in the US who would want to buy that product, but there's so few people selling it, but the demand is high, and the products that are there are crappy. Like sometimes I'll run these products, Jeff, and the photos are just terrible. There'll be maybe 1, 2, 3 photos, or you can tell someone photoshopped something onto a stock picture and it looks absolutely ridiculous. Looks like it's floating, and yet it's still selling. And you go, man, what's going on? Well, that tells me the demand is super high, but there's not people are not having optimized listings, which creates a huge opportunity for those of you guys who are selling. So that's huge.
So I found a product like that, and I ran a test to see how the product would sell. And I was able to generate sales before if you can generate sales before optimizing a listing, you've got a winner. Because once you start to optimize that listing and you put better photos, you're just going to generate more and more sales. And let's say let's give a tip for the people that are in that competitive niche, right? So let's say you are in that competitive niche and you're going after something that's super highly competitive, and you didn't niche down your product. You didn't niche down your product, right? Find a way to talk. Okay, so your product doesn't have any features or benefits that are different. Find a way to talk about your product in a different way, right? So I was selling a product, and the product was a very generic product. It was a classic Amazon situation. When I started doing the research, the product looked great. When I brought the product to market, all of a sudden 45 additional sellers all came to market while my product was coming overseas, right? We've all had that happen to us. Well, what I was able to do was I was able to not go after the keyword that I originally thought I wanted. I started niching down my keywords and going after longer tail keywords. And so by being able to do that, I was able to talk about my product in the way that user would use it. And therefore, when I had that traffic come on my site, I seemed much more, I seemed like a much better product than for somebody else. So I like to use the example of Apple Slicer. It's a very generic one and nobody should ever go and source it. You know, if you're going to create an apple slicer, then maybe you make the best apple slicer for apple pies, right? Like, or make your apple slicer all about the after school snack, right? Like really sell it in to one pain point. Experience. To sell it into that one pain point so that when somebody's reading it, they go, shoot, man, I need an apple slicer that can slice a perfect apple for after school snacks because my kids are really hungry. And all of a sudden, I'm now talking to a subset of the group versus the whole group. And it's one way to move generic products when you get caught in that, in that, right? Because it happens to all of us.
Right. Sub-niching. Thank you. This is like, you have no idea how relieving it is to have someone just say this on my show. Because I feel like sometimes I'm speaking to a wall. It's like, come on, guys, market niche, sub-niche, break it down to a very specific need. So this is awesome. Thank you, Jeff.
Listen, it's really easy in our space to find a high velocity product. I mean, I'll give you a real example. Okay. We don't discourage, but we don't necessarily encourage our employees to sell on Amazon. Right. And so one of our employees came up to me and he goes, I got a great idea. I have a great idea. I said, what's your idea? He said, I want to sell a fidget spinner. I said, you want to sell a fidget spinner? He goes, yeah, I want to sell a fidget spinner. And he's kind of ADD. So he was like,
he is his own customer, right?
Right. Yeah. He's like, I know I can do it. And this was like October of last year. So he was kind of to the early side of the craze. He's like, I know I can do it better than everybody else that's doing it. And I was like, but look, like it literally went from like 100 people to 1,000 people selling it in 1 month, which means there's going to be 5,000 people selling it in 2 more months. And he's like, no, I can do it better. I can. And I said to him, I go, do me a favor. When you order your fidget spinners, put the Seller Labs logo on it because you're going to be stuck with so many of them that the company can use them as giveaways. And, and when I said that, I think he really thought about it. And like, I heard this saying yesterday, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Get attached to the profit. Don't get attached to the product.
Right. Remove the emotional connection.
When you're going through this process, right? And some people in your group have launched a lot of products. Some people are still trying to launch their first product. You're looking at all this data, right? And the data is overwhelming to say the least because you've never launched a product. I always tell people, find one product, bring it to market. You're going to screw it up and you're probably going to break even or lose a little bit of money, but you've got to take action to bring something to market so you can know all the things that you don't know yet.
Right.
Okay. I'll slow that down because I said, you got to figure out how to know all the things that you don't know yet. And any of us that have sold a product on Amazon can say that the hardest product we ever brought to market was the first one, and the second hardest was the second one. And you get much better at identifying what the right product is. You get much better at identifying how to create pages, where an opportunity sits. And then all of a sudden you're like, 7 out of every 10 products are successful versus 1 out of every 10, at the beginning. And I'm not trying to discourage people and say that you're going to fail on your first product. There's plenty of people who succeed on their first product. But if you're really driving yourself in your product discovery to find the perfect product, I guess understand that on Amazon, there is no perfect product, and it's all about kind of, can you get better pricing? Can you change some features on the product? Can you create a better page? Can you do a better job with marketing? Can you create off traffic to drive business to your traffic? All the things that I'm sure you're teaching your audience,
Right.
are important. And so it's not necessarily about like, oh my God, somebody's finally coming on and saying it. I guess it's more of like, these are I've worked with thousands of tens of thousands of sellers. I've spoken to thousands of sellers around the world. These are the things that good quality businesses on Amazon do to be successful. And so we have to learn from that and use that to help us in our business.
Yep. Really, really well said, man. It's a process. It's not the perfect product. And some people, they'll use the checklist of, okay, does it fit in a shoebox? Is it underneath a pound? I have to have all these checked. And if they are, all my hope is in this product. This is my Messiah. It's going to save me. And that kind of thinking brings people to destruction. It's a process. And I love what you said earlier about failing. When you come out with different software programs, you have 3 that don't work, then boom, 1 works. And it more than makes up for the 3 that didn't. That's part of the failure of building a business. I'm convinced, Jeff, that leaders and business owners and people who actually make a difference and succeed in these circles are those who are going to fail more than the regular person. I'm not trying to act like we're some elite group of people, but we're going to fail more. But you have to fail more in order to succeed. And all you have to do is succeed one time. One single product that does well can more than make up for 15 that don't. And guys, I'm not saying you should expect 15 failures to get to 1 success. That's crazy.
Well, failures are minor, right? Failures are like
they're learning points.
Right. But I just so everyone kind of understands, a failure is not necessarily like the product came to market and it failed. The failure is I airshipped the product in, and I really didn't need the extra 3 weeks by air shipping it in. So I spent extra money on it. So I wasn't as profitable on the product. The failure is that I went overboard on packaging, and that kind of packaging wasn't necessary. So next time, so the failures are these little things along the way. And because of that, we have a saying in our office, right? So one of our core principles is that you will never have enough data to make a correct decision. And therefore you have to use the data that you have to make the best decision that you can make at that time.
And be willing to make iterations along the way. And
that's right.
And that's the beauty of selling on Amazon too, guys. When you're selling your product, you're not stuck with this exact version of this product. You can update the listing and come out with better versions. You can change your plan. You can move and go back and forth. In most cases, if the research was done well, I find that there's potential. The issue is not, oh my goodness, I have to can this entire product. A lot of times it's like software. I need to do a reiteration of it to make it better, to fix this, to change that, to make it more discoverable. Right. And that's the process thinking. One thing I love too is everyone, if you fall in love with the process and become okay with that, there's something about this example may not be entirely relevant, but I still want to share it because I think it's relevant. I jumped out of an airplane with a parachute on my back.
Oh, good.
And the first time I did it, I was terrified. In fact, when I got on the airplane, we flew to New York City. When we were 10,000 feet in the air, I looked out the window and I said to my kids, hey, look, that's how high we were when we got to 10,000 before they went up to, I think, the regular 20,000. There's something about the risk of knowing that, hey, something could go wrong. I could die. And that's obviously an extreme example, but I'm still willing to try this, to learn, to experience it. There's that process in business is part of the joy. I lost $20,000 through decisions that were bad decisions, or ignorant decisions would probably be a more fair way, along the way to building up our Amazon businesses. And that's a part of the process. And I would not replace that with anything. That's part of how I became who I am today. It also helps me to stay real.
Yeah, and I think that I think that one of the fallacies of starting an Amazon business is that you don't need cash to do it. And I don't think you need like a ton of cash, right? Like, I don't think you need $20,000, $30,000. but you do need some cash to experiment, right? Like you have to have the ability to do experimentation along the way so that you can figure out what does work and what doesn't work. If you do your numbers correctly, and I don't know your whole course and how you teach things, but most people are relatively about the same. They just have some nuances that are different. If you do your numbers correctly, and if you calculate your numbers correctly, you should be at the very least able to bring your product over and get a break even or just a minor loss on your product and get your cash back. It might take you a little longer, right? So my first product that I ordered 1,000 units. I thought it would be 3 months worth of inventory. And here it is. It's been a year. And, I'm still, trying to get rid of the last 150 units. Now, I haven't lost any money on that, but I've lost the access to my money on that. But I haven't lost any money on that. And so I've been able to iterate my process and learn from that and put techniques in place and learn how to do things to where my next product, the manufacturer wanted me to bring in 1,000 units. And I said, okay, well, I need a sample of 100 of them to test the market. And I paid a little bit more. I got 100 of them. I'm testing the market. I can see that the market's doing well. Now I bring over the 1,000 because I know that 1,000 really represents a 3 to 4 month supply.
Right. It's really good. Let's do this, guys. Let's break down tasks. So what I did is I went through and I just listed all the tasks I could possibly think of that anyone would ever do when building an Amazon business. And there's a huge difference between a one-time task and an ongoing task. Ongoing task is something that becomes menial, something you're doing over and over again. And a one-time task is something that's massive, takes more time, takes thought. You can't automate it through software. And some of the information I share, I'm going to credit to Karen Ellenberger, who is an incredible presentation on this and is going to be speaking at the Just One Dime conference in March on this very topic. So Karen, if you watch this video, I want you to know thank you for some of these tips that might come up in what I share when I'm talking with Jeff here today. But Jeff, could you start with this, man? What would you say is one of the most challenging parts of how to automate your business as much as possible? If you said, Seth, in my opinion, here's the best way if you were to create an automation plan for an Amazon business so that the seller is not constantly responding to stuff, but actually has time to work on the business instead of just working in the business. So they actually can think, hey, 2 months from now, we're going to launch another product. By 2018, we want to have another store or another a marketplace in the UK. Like those big picture thinking versus, okay, I got this product. How do I get it to sell? Okay, I got to oh, you know what I mean? And they're always responding, go back and forth. And then the sun goes down and they're exhausted and they have no time left.
Right.
And they're drained and they didn't have time to think about, and here's one more thing. I love thinking big picture because when you automate the menial tasks, it gives you energy and focus and purpose when you can think about the big picture. Where are we going? That's exciting. That's motivating. That keeps people going. A lot of times I'll see people get discouraged and get really close to giving up because they're so buried in all these little tasks they have to do. So could you speak to that for a while? Because I know this is something that you guys do and you guys are really good at.
Yeah, so we encourage our employees to have what we call 20% strategy time. And so the 20% strategy time is that they need to be using 1 day of their week to be working on the longer term goals of the business, right? Because everyone gets bogged down in the day-to-day task of the business, but doesn't take a step back to look at the overall goals of the business. And so we've implemented, it's a no meeting day, right? So we have a no meeting day where that's, it doesn't have to be that day, but you have no like day-to-day meetings going on and you can focus on the longer term strategy, things that think of it like an essay paper for school, right? It's due at the end of the semester and your choice is to either work on it a little bit every week or wait till the last week to work on it. So we encourage our employees to work on it every week. When running an Amazon business, I think that you have to identify what your strengths and weaknesses are, right? So it's hard to tell somebody what they should and shouldn't automate without knowing their strengths and weaknesses. So if your weakness is accounting and bookkeeping, then that's one of the first things I would outsource because what you should do is you should look at where you want to put your time into where you're going to get the most value for what you're doing. And so if you're able to identify what you're not good at, and you're able to get other people to do the things that you're not good at, you free yourself up to do the stuff that you're good at. So here's an example. If you're really good at finding products, then maybe you like finding product ideas, then maybe you then work with a supplier to go out and source those products for you, so that you're not spending all of your time sitting on websites trying to source products. If you're really good at sourcing products, but you're not good at kind of finding product ideas, then maybe you look for opportunities where you can actually like acquire somebody's business or buy an idea, right? So there are people now that are starting to kind of like sell, they're starting to sell ideas. Like, here's the keyword and here's the potential sales. And if you're interested, yeah, it's a package, right? So, you know, if dealing with mundane tasks like logging into your Amazon account and checking emails, or something like that isn't for you, then maybe that's something you look to outsource. If you're really good at training a VA, then maybe you look to actually hire somebody on your staff and you train them as a VA, right? And so there's tasks that you can outsource, right? You can set up a Feedback Genius and you can automate your emails. You can set up, you can set up, you know, keyword tracking to see how your reporting's doing. You can set up your sponsored ads and you can turn on automation. There's things like that that you can do, but you really have to look at your business as a whole, and you have to figure out how much you want to invest, because we've had this movement in this world in the last 10 years where companies like mine, software as a service companies, have become very prevalent, right? And so I'm sure you as a business owner have lots of companies that you send a check to on a monthly basis, probably credit card.
Well, then I want to.
For everything from web conferencing to Slack to, you know, to video conferencing, to, right, and on and on and on. And so that can add up quickly. And so you have to kind of understand where you're at in your business and how much you're trying to invest. Once you get going, you have an ASIN, or, I mean, in all honesty, for me, your first ASIN, you should do start to finish by yourself. No questions asked. Don't look to maybe you look to outsource a coach or something like that to help you, but you've got to do that one yourself, because you have to understand the whole process before you start to look to outsource it.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you, actually, is do you recommend first do everything yourself? You know the process, you understand it. Then it gives you the ability to either train someone or create a workflow. So in this part, Karen, thank you, creating a workflow, like literally here's all the steps needed to make this happen, then getting someone to build software that does that for you automatically. And a lot of people, and this is how we started to doing this in some of our businesses, is we would create a spreadsheet. And this was by necessity. It just kind of was birthed out of a need. We didn't think, oh, hey, we're going to be automated. We just thought, wait a minute. We literally wrote on a board every single task we do for our businesses. And then we gave each one a number, and that number was a number of minutes or hours we were spending a week on it. And the one we were spending the most time on, we said, that's a bottleneck.
Yep.
And that idea I got from a book called The Goal, which is an incredible book, even though it has nothing to do with online sales. It was written in the 80s. One of my favorite books for automating Amazon. And so we would take the bottleneck and we said, okay, let's figure out what are all the steps needed to make that happen. So for example, here's just an example, guys. When you talk to a supplier, think about how many interactions you have. So first you're on DHgate or Alibaba, or you know of someone and you reach out and you're looking at getting quotes. And then you get them onto WhatsApp or QQ. And then you start communicating. And then you have to find, okay, well, can they build this product for me? Okay, what is the price? What if I buy a greater quantity? So many little tasks that go through that entire process. And all of a sudden you go, a month has gone by. Right. And I'm still trying to figure out what supplier to use.
Yep.
Now, that example may not work in every situation, because with suppliers it is more custom. But usually, and tell me if you think of this, Jeff, there's two options. I can pay someone to do it for me, or I can get software, low-cost automated software. And guys, this is not an advertisement for Solar Labs. Jeff is not giving me some
and we don't even automate some of the things that you're talking about, right?
Okay. I just want people to know that. So there's no affiliate relationship here at all. We're just bringing you content. as badass as we can. So I can hire someone, or over here, I can either pay a software service, a low cost per month to automate this, or a lot of money, 20, 30,000, have someone build software for me.
Right.
We did for a lot of our coaching stuff. We had to actually literally pay someone to build out this amazing software that automates. But in the long run, now that task is no longer a bottleneck and it's faster, which saves me time. And that's what I love about automation, is it goes back to saving you time. So here's
but if you had not, and see, I haven't even put the fidget spinner down yet.
See, it works, man.
So good.
I know someone, and I would never share his name, but I know someone who has over 20,000 of those in his warehouse. What do I do? Like, liquidate it. I have to sell them for $2. I'll pay more in fees. It's like, man, I never would have. Anyways, that's another story. Go ahead.
Well, I might be able to help. I might be able to help him depending on what the brand is. We're doing a toy drive for Toys for Tots for Christmas. So if he wants to write it off as a tax donation, he can contact me.
There you go. See, that's leveraging your resources. But go ahead.
If you had not written that out on your whiteboard, right? And we do the same process, right? So we do a Facebook, like you, we do a Facebook Live every Wednesday, and then we want to repurpose that content, right? So we have to translate that or transcribe all of that. We have to edit the video. We have to get still shots. We have to upload it to YouTube. We have to do a write-up for our blog, right? We have all these tasks that are kind of associated, like once the video is done and then it's complete. And so we did the same thing. We wrote the whole thing out and we went through it and we did all of it ourselves to understand how much time does it take? How much energy does it take? What's the byproduct of doing it? Is it worth the effort if we actually put the energy into it? And then once the whole thing was written out, and once the process was clearly defined, we then were able to go back and we were able to outsource the different sections, because we were able to go to somebody and say, okay, you do transcription and these are an hour long and this is how much you charge and here's how good you are. Great. You do video editing. And so I happen to, I guess, have a benefit in the fact that I have a coordinator who can coordinate a lot of that stuff for me. But if you don't have that process written out, and we do that process for everything from email workflows to how a software is going to work, right? And all of that gets written out, and then you can go and do it. So it's very similar to what we were just saying about launching a product. You have to walk through and launch that product yourself to understand this isn't, you can outsource the creation of your product listing. You can outsource the photography of your image. You can outsource somebody to manage your account. You can outsource somebody to manage your sponsored ads. Right. All of these different components along the way can be outsourced. It's up to you to determine when you've hit a value proposition that it makes sense to outsource and that the expense is going to free up your time for you to do the other things that you're doing.
Yeah. And guys, if your goal is to make money so that you have margin, so you can actually do things, have freedom and margin to do the things you love with the people you love, look at it this way. Would you rather have $100 from one person or $10 from 100 different people? Now, in life, it always feels somehow better to just get that one $100 check, just that one piece of cash. It feels better. It's like, oh my goodness, look at all the money I made, versus $10 here, $10 here, $10 here. But actually, getting $10 from 100 different people makes you $1,000. Now, how is this relevant? Guys, if you're focused on building a business and you have to pay someone to help you and you're thinking, wait, that's hurting my profit margin. Totally get that. It brings it down. But if that gives you time to launch 10 products instead of 2 in the next 10 months, you're going to end up making a lot more money, because now you have a lot more customers, even though your margins went down a little bit because you hired people. And like Jeff said, if the people you're hiring can do it better than you can, if that's what they're skilled in, if that's what they're really good at, they're probably going to save you money anyways, just because they're more efficient and they're going to do a better job, find better suppliers, do better automation, whatever it is that you're asking them to do. So it's kind of like this. I'm going to be able to teach you here for a minute, but if I have a pool of resources and this one is time, and I have another pool of resources and this one is people, and then I have knowledge, and then I have cash. Can you see that on the board, Jeff?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. So if these are my four main resources, so knowledge, money, time, people, it's simply an allotment of where am I going to put what. So, okay, I'm running low on time. It's filled up. So what do I need to do? I need to get more people. Or I'm running low on people. What do I need to do? I need to get more time to hire more people. It's sort of like, it's like taking your resources and putting them in places so that they strategically work for you.
Yep.
But if you're trying to do everything, and I agree, at the beginning, you need to do everything to learn it. But if you stay in that mindset, you will never grow bigger than yourself. And the only way you can grow bigger than yourself is two ways, really. Number one, people, get over your ego. You can't do everything. Entrepreneurs, it's art. Style is to like, I'm going to do this. I'm a Lone Ranger. You have to get over that and be willing to trust other people to help you. And man, as much as you can, software. Could you speak a little bit on software? Because, I mean, this is what you guys do, Jeff.
Yeah.
What advantage?
Well, I think it's a combo of software and people and process, right? So you have some things that can be automated to software, right? Like messaging your clients and using a Feedback Genius. That's a software. It just doesn't make sense to even hire a person to do that when you can pay, $20 or $40 a month to have a software do it for you, right? Then you have something like sponsored ads, right? So sponsored ads is kind of a hybrid.
Right.
And if you're growing your business, you're going to need to do sponsored ads. So sponsored ads, you can use a software, right? We have a software. Our software has a fully automated feature where when the data makes sense, we make decisions for you and we implement them into your account. Right. And you can use automation for doing that. But we also have a good number of people who sign up for our software and they say, you know what? I don't even have the knowledge, right? So you go back to the knowledge or the experience to know if I've set my account up correctly. So before I dive into automating this system, can you guys like come through and just set my account up correctly, right? And so there's parts of Amazon that you can watch a video and you can learn, right? So I can point you to a great video that I've done on how to create the perfect product listing. And some people will watch that video and they will, and that's knowledge, right? They will watch that video and they'll say, oh, okay, I could do this. It'll take me an hour. Some people will watch that video and they'll say, I don't get it. I need to just go hire somebody that can create my listing for me. And they'll spend money or hire people to do it. And sponsored ads is the same way because it's an art and a science. And both of these are an art and a science in that there are scientific ways to create a listing. There are a certain number of characters, but you can't automate it with software. You would never automate your listing creation with software. And so you can use software to help you build your listing and you can learn a process and then you can apply that process using the software to build a listing. But you still might just get to the point where you go, well, how much does it cost for me to just have somebody create that listing for me? You know what? It's $1,000. I'll just have somebody take all my photos, create my listing for me, and it's done. And I use all of their knowledge to create my listing. Now, when you're getting started, don't do that because you don't have an extra $1,000 to do that.
My first photos I took for Amazon, they were on an iPod. This is an iPhone. They were on an iPod 4.
Yeah.
Terrible lighting. They were crappy, but we had to start. And it's better to start than to wait until everything's perfect.
Get a white sheet, get your iPhone. There's a website you can upload it to called like removemybackground.com or something like that. It drops the background from the photo and you're compliant with Amazon, right? It's either drop my background or remove my background, something like that. As you start launching more products and as your product starts to do well, that's when you start looking at optimizing your listing. And that's when you either get a tool like Scope and you learn a process and you hire somebody to do it internally or you do it yourself, or you just flat out outsource the whole thing because you want lifestyle photos and you want text inside your photos and you want a lot of research into your keywords. And so it's not necessarily this very cut and dry, is it a software solution or is it a people solution? Sometimes it's a hybrid of the two. Right. And so, what sellers have to realize is kind of like where are you in your journey? What makes sense for your business? And then, I subscribe personally to the philosophy that you surround yourself with people smarter than you. And so therefore, under that philosophy, I'm going to go hire who I think is the best person to create a product listing. And I'm going to hopefully learn from them so that I can create my next product listing.
Yep.
Right.
And that's the part of getting over our ego. We have to surround ourselves with people better than us, faster, smarter, more experienced. That's how we grow. I would rather, this is going to sound really mean, but I would rather hang out with someone who knows more than me. I'm going to benefit from that way more than they will. That's the kind of people I want to surround myself with. And
Absolutely.
one guy here is a really good question. He says, how do you retain control? And I believe Doug is referring to when you're outsourcing to different people. So I'll share some thoughts on this. And Jeff, feel free to share anything as well from your experience. So Doug, if it's simply a one-time task, like I found someone on Upwork, or I know someone who can do one job for me, I just make sure those expectations are super clear. But if you're referring, I'm guessing, more to hiring an employee or an ongoing contractor where your success is going to more depend on their performance, then I do more vetting. And the two things I always look for is this person teachable? I want them to have more knowledge, but I also want to know that they will do things the way I'm asking because I'm paying them to do it. So if there's a resistance or pride there, it's like, oh, I'm doing it my way, I can't work with someone like that. But if they're humble and they're open, like, hey, yeah, absolutely, teach me and stay teachable, I can work with that person way more trustworthy. In fact, in that case, I would rather work with someone who is an open heart and will learn a ton than someone who may know a ton, but I have no way to trust them. So that's one thing. And second, do they hustle? Do they fall through? And so, Doug, it's your job to give them super clear expectations with deadlines. That way, if they don't fall through, you have something measurable. You can go back and say, did they do it? Did they not? Oh, they didn't do it? Okay, then that's on them. But if you didn't communicate that clearly, it's not on them. There's no possible way you can hold them accountable for not following through on something that wasn't clear what needed to be done and when it needed to be finished. But those are the philosophies I use when hiring people or outsourcing. How do you do that, Jeff? How do you decide when you guys hire people? In fact, could you just elaborate for a minute? You guys are in Georgia, and you were telling me about this massive community where people can come and work in your guys' space, and that's a pool also for hiring people. Could you talk about that? And then how do you vet the people you hire?
Yeah. So we built when we built our office. We built our office to be more than an office. We built it to be a center for the community. It was very important to us that we wanted to be a place, right? And so we do things, not did, like every Friday we have lunch. Community members, I think for $10 can buy lunch and come eat at our office. Actually, they probably could show up for free if they want. We do like TED type talks where either people in our company or people in the community will do like a lunch and learn or something. And we have a huge, like 2,000 square foot community room. It's got a big screen TV. It's got cameras and microphones, and it's got a soda machine, like all these things that really kind of attract people.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how excited people get about a soda machine. And what we've been able to do is we've been able to create an environment where somebody walks into our office and they go, oh, cool, this is a place I want to work. Right. And so a lot of you guys are virtual. And so it's harder to do that. But if you've got to decide as a company whether you're creating a physical presence or an online or virtual presence. You've got to set up your communication style. So we use a program called Slack. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't use the same thing. It's a very popular program. We have an employee handbook. So we set out a lot of expectations up front. We do what's called a quarterly State of the Union, where on the first day of every quarter, we recap the past 3 months, and we're very clear to our employees of what the goals for the next 3 months are. We align our goals with their goals, or I guess we align their goals with our goals so that they know that what they're working on is driving the company. We do a lot of, we do company picnics. We rent out the theater when Star Trek comes out, when Star Wars comes out, things like that are just kind of community based.
That's amazing.
Right. We make it a place that people want to work. In terms of like culture, right? A lot of that comes down to really being honest when you're hiring somebody, the culture of your business and what your expectations are. And then I guess ultimately, very similar. Successful people don't always hire the right people, but when they hire the right people, they will curate them to be ultra successful. And when they hire the wrong people, they identify it quickly and they move on. And I think that where a lot of companies fail is that you hire somebody,
but you don't fire them,
and you're afraid to fire them. Right? Yeah,
there's fear in America. I can't fire someone. Here's a commitment I made when I started Just One Dime. I will never bring on someone as a contractor employee who I'm not willing to let go of. That way, I'm never more attached to the person or the fear of people's reaction than I am to the health of the people trying to build an Amazon business.
Yeah.
Love that concept, man. That's awesome.
It's hard. Like, listen, it's hard. You're talking about, I mean, we have 36 employees. Like, you know, if we went out of business tomorrow, people lose their jobs and families don't have food to or money to pay their bills. Like that's a burden that a business has. I don't think people always think about that, but I think we do. I mean, as an executive team, we really think about like the quality of the life of the employees in our business, because
sure.
Let's bring this down for the other people who don't have 36 employees. Let's say you have a VA in the Philippines.
One VA.
Okay. A lot of you probably do, right? It's very common for a small Amazon business. You're probably paying that VA $500 a month, right? Working out to somewhere around $4 to $5 an hour, right? Is probably what you're paying that person. Understand that like giving that person $50
is amazing
and life-changing.
Yep.
And so treat that employee in the Philippines the way you would treat somebody here.
Giving them $500. Exactly.
Yeah. And just remember that, like we had we don't outsource to the Philippines anymore. But when we did, like when we had another site, we did a lot. We don't do it anymore. But when we did, we would say like, well, how much do they want? And they would, you know, and we would say we were going to pay them like 22,000 PHP. And they would come in and they would ask for 23 instead of 22. And the hiring manager would be like, no, don't pay them. And you calculate it and you're like, that 1,000 PHP calculates to like $8 a month or something like that.
That goes back to the resources. Am I really and that's another thing. We don't want to overvalue money. Like right there, that's I got to save pennies. I got to save, but wait, what am I losing? I might be losing a person. Is that worth it? I'd rather pay more for someone who's better.
What we would do is if we wanted 22 and they asked for 23, we would pay them 25. Because we wanted
so you'd rate, do more, amaze them, blow them out of the water. Now they feel grateful.
No, if they weren't good, we got rid of them, right?
Yeah.
And we told everybody you're on a 90-day probationary period. You've got to be able to do the work that we need done. Yep. But their desire to want to work for us
greater
significantly over what ends up being a very insignificant amount of money to you.
Yeah. And here's what I love about it, Jeff. I bet it isn't just the more money they're getting. It's the fact that you guys did that caused them to appreciate so much more what you do. And it created a culture, because study after study says people rarely leave a company because of the pay. They leave a company because of a boss or the culture or something. Usually it's relational 99 times out of 100. So there's that people resource, the value. This is why the balancing of these 4 resources, I think, it's phenomenal. Like if we balance our resources, we can make wise decisions, get our head out of our butt, and not be so stuck to this mentality. And here's how I grew up. Save pennies. You know, if you get too rich, you're evil, you're wrong or unrighteous or something. But actually view it as, wait, there's money, there's people, there's resources. What's the best way to manage it?
Right.
And every business should be run. And really quick, there were some comments here and questions earlier. Oh, someone wants to know if you're hiring, Jeff. So you are, right?
You know, check out sellerlabs.com. I think it's under the about section. We do keep our open jobs that are there. I'll be honest, most of our jobs are local in the Athens, Georgia area. But if you're local and you have Amazon knowledge, please apply. Awesome.
Very cool. There are some very super high caliber people on this team. So just so you know, if someone goes to work for you, I might be hiring them first. No, just kidding. It's fine. There are some amazing people.
I mean, but that's an example, right? Like I can speak to the culture of my company And therefore people listen to that and go, that's a company I want to go work for.
I want to belong to that. It's the
We've
relationship.
had people walk away from jobs from Facebook and Google and such to come work for us because of the culture that we have, right? And you've got to be able to put it into practice when they get there, right? You can't just talk about it. Like, it actually has to be the way that you run your business. But it's been very important to us really since like even our warehouse days, right? Like even back in that day, culture was very important to us.
Right. That's awesome. All right, let's do this. I'm going to honor your time.
Yeah.
One, if you have any last pieces of advice, the majority of people right now, we have how many? 142 people listening, and we'll probably have well over 1,000 in the next few hours who will go back and watch it because this is on YouTube.
How about this? I've got 10 minutes. So why don't you, let's do rapid fire. If there's some questions, why don't you do rapid fire? I'll do quick answers and then we can wrap up.
Got it. I love it. Okay, guys, everyone ask your questions now.
We'll give it, I've got about a hard stop in about 14 minutes, but we can wrap up some final like questions that people have. And I promise we won't go that into depth on this.
Okay. You got it, man. I totally appreciate it. Okay. Guys,
and I'm not speaking at your show. Somebody from my company is, but I will be at the show. So if people are there, I'd love to talk to them as well.
Yep. Absolutely. So he's your business associate. What do you call Tyler? He's your business partner.
He's business development. He runs partnerships. Yeah.
Okay. So he, guys, from Stellar Labs will be speaking at the Just One Dime conference in March of next year. And Jeff will also be coming over to say hi as well. I think on their opening, when we have the party night on Sunday or something. So
yeah, I'm trying to figure it all out. There's a lot going on that week.
No problem. So Susan, she's like the brain of this operation. So she takes care of that. All right. So let's see if we have any questions. Any questions at all, guys? Go ahead and ask them now. Here, I'm going to scroll up. There were a bunch of questions earlier. Okay, so what is your recommendation, Jeff, for finding virtual assistants? Where would you go?
So I use a company called FreeUp. They are a little bit better than Upwork in the fact that FreeUp vets their people. So, you know, like you might be able to hire the same person on Upwork for $2 from the Philippines that you get on FreeUp for $3. But they've been through a vetting process, so you're not getting all the other hundreds of resumes and applications that come through that you're filtering down. So Nathan does a great job running that organization, and we've hired some really quality contractors from them.
Excellent. All right, I have not ever used FreeUp, so thank you. That's valuable to me as well. Let's see.
I also happen to have a lot of contacts in the space, so people can always reach out to me, and depending on what you're looking for, there might be a consultant or somebody who specializes in something. If you don't want to train, you know, like if you don't want to train a VA, there are people that do a lot of these tasks, like a listing optimization or a photo, you know, or something like that. And so I can provide you a list of some of these contacts because obviously you're going to want to vet them before you share them with your community.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome, man. Thank you. Here's a question. Will it cost me, this is a massive question, will it cost me more selling in the US as I live in the UK?
So it's not going to cost you more because you can actually ship your products from China to a location, process them, and send them to Amazon, all within the U.S. So it really doesn't cost. I mean, Amazon is set up in a way that it doesn't really cost you at all. So you just need to make sure you use an importer that understands how to get the product into Amazon, right? Because that's got to be kind of the kicker, is that you don't have anywhere for it to be delivered in the US for it to be then reprocessed before it goes to Amazon.
Right. I'm going to send you guys a link. Everyone, it gives you 72 prep centers that we highly recommend that you can use. So if you're selling in one country, but you're living in one country, but you're selling another, you can actually have the supplier send it to the prep center. They'll put the FNSKU label on there. They'll prepare it for you. It's like 20 cents up to $1 per product, so the margins are not bad. And then they prepare it for you, make sure it's taken care of. So I'll send you guys a link.
No, that's actually what's really cool about Amazon, is that you can totally live. I mean, I could sell in the UK and never visit there.
We have a guy living in Kuwait. You can't create an Amazon store even from Kuwait. But 6 months of the year he lives in Kuwait. Then he goes back to Canada. He can live wherever he wants, and he's making money every day.
Yep.
Now, was it hard to get there? Yes. And I always feel like I have to qualify that because there's so many people out there saying it's so easy, it's so easy. And I think they're selling an idea that's not realistic. It's going to be damn hard, people. If you're building a business, you're going to need $20,000 for minimum for brick and mortar. Amazon, yeah, you could. I've seen one guy. He did it with $500. Most people, $2,000 to $5,000 to start. It's hard. It's not easy. But it's so much better than doing a brick and mortar. You can sell anywhere in the world. There are people in Guatemala. We've been asked to go down to Guatemala and help with coaching there, Jeff, which is super cool. Tons of digital nomads down there learning how to sell on Amazon.
Yep.
Poor people, they're learning how to do it. Like it's so worldwide. I cannot wait to see what happens the next 5 years with Amazon on an international level. It's remarkable, unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, next question. I was kicked out of Amazon a few years ago because I did not know what I was doing. Is there a way to get back on?
So I would tell you to go talk to a specialist. I recommend people to Cynthia Stein or CJ Rosenbaum or Chris McCabe. Those are kind of the people who kind of focus on that side of the business. You may need to just, if it's been a couple of years, you may be able to reactivate your account. You may just be better off opening up a new corporation and opening up a new Amazon account.
Absolutely.
I guess ultimately I'm not qualified to give that advice. So I would.
Yeah. No, it's fine. And it's perfect because CJ Rosenbaum, he's going to be at our conference speaking, answering those kinds of questions. Yeah. I have multiple Amazon accounts. Some people consider it shady. I'll be open about it. If you use a different computer, use a different IP address, different internet link, or you can use a server so that there's no way they can track it back to you. You can create a whole new account, and it's much faster.
Also, than
fighting to get back on.
But you have multiple EIN numbers, right? Yeah, so you can actually go to Amazon, and if you can give Amazon a justified business reason for needing multiple accounts, they'll give you a waiver.
Yes, in theory.
Yeah.
It takes way longer to do that than it does just to set it up. And so we just use this whole separate identity and C Corp and everything. But you're right.
I actually have a meeting with Amazon in a couple of weeks. And if you remind me, I can tell you what they tell me. But like we're considered an agency now with Amazon because we manage people's sponsored ads accounts.
Right.
And so we've met with them and we've said like, hey, how do we like legally log into people's Amazon accounts to like manage their sponsored ads? Right. When you're not supposed to have multiple accounts on the same IP. And so I think Amazon is having to deal with some new things anyway that are changing that. But I would agree, like if you open up multiple accounts, know that you need to do it in a safer manner. There is the longer term process, which is reaching out to Amazon to talk about it.
Right. Excellent. All right. We'll take one more question. Let's see. In which stage of business, Jeff, do you recommend start hiring a virtual assistant?
Are they talking about a physical state or like at what point?
They're talking about the stage of business. At what point?
Business stage.
Yeah.
I would say as soon as I mean, it's like you said, a hiring should be an investment, right? Like you should look at a hiring not as an expense, but as an investment. So as soon as you can afford that investment, or as soon as you absolutely need that investment, maybe even like a month before you need that investment, because everything takes longer than you expect. Because if you're in this for the long run, you've got to make this business something that you're investing into and that you're expecting to see a long time return on investment. And the hiring of a VA or the hiring of a person to work for you is an investment to grow your business. So we're looking at like the growth of Seller Labs over the next 2 years. And we have like 14 people scheduled to be hired. And we have different points at which we're going to hire those people based on the company growing. But we also know that like, if I want to hire somebody 3 months from now, I need to start working on it today because it takes time to write the job description, to find the person, to get them in, to get them trained. Right. It's not like you can say like, I need a VA today and bam, click, snap. Yeah. You've got one.
Yeah. And then you need margin too. If they don't work out, you need to find someone else too.
Correct.
Cool. Awesome. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. Everyone's for being here. This has been super helpful to you guys. Everyone go to sellerlabs.com. No affiliation between me and Jeff on a monetary level at all. If you But the reason I'm telling you is because I use their program and it's good and it will help you automate. Cellularlabs.com. Really quick, Jeff, someone asked the question, what would you recommend the first program of the 4 now that are on there? Which one do you recommend they start with?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to always say it depends. I guess a
new seller. Someone they just started off.
Scope. If you're a new seller and you haven't launched your product, Scope. If you have your product live, then Feedback Genius. Because you should, as soon as you get a product live, you want Feedback Genius. I mean, Feedback Genius is free for your first 100 orders every month. So there's no reason not to be using it. You know, there's a free version of Scope. So you can even start using that before your business gets to the point that you need to pay for the updated paid version. So, you know, sponsored ads and Ignite is kind of a little bit down the road when you feel you're ready for that type of investment from time and money. But that would probably be the way I'd answer that.
Great. To answer your question, yes, but that is in March. So the Can Even It Real conference, the Just One Dime Summit, it's in March in Las Vegas, and we're announcing it very soon. Just so you know, guys, for those of you guys who are Just One Dime members already, for a week, those tickets open up on October 1st, and you guys get a huge discount because you're members. So anyone who's not a member yet, if you're thinking about getting a coach for coaching, sign up. We will help you step by step the whole process. We have 8 badass coaches selling in multiple marketplaces. These are all multiple business owners and entrepreneurs who have succeeded, and we will help you get there. But having said that, if you're already signed up before October 1st, you get to also go to the conference at a huge discount, and that is only for Just One Dime members. All right, guys, have an awesome day. Hey, Jeff, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here, brother.
Yeah, no problem. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, you know, join the Cellular Labs Facebook group if you want some additional content like this. I love sharing. So thanks for having me, and feel free to, you know, if I guess you guys let Seth know, was this valuable to you? Leave comments, share with Seth if we gave you any value today. That's going to be what kind of prompts Seth as to whether he should ever bring me back or lose my number.
Awesome. And everyone, if you don't mind, if you enjoyed this, do a thumbs up on the video. I always have a couple, like 2 or 3 hecklers. They make my life fun. And even if it's like, I'll make a video, it's like, I love you guys. I love the world. Thumbs down. It just cracks me up. There's some, it's so funny, but they can't do it.
It's the way our world works today.
Cool. All right, man. Hey, thanks again, Jeff. And have an awesome rest of your day, man.
All right. Take care. Bye. Thank you.